Okay, right. So once again, thanks everybody for joining us today and a warm welcome to our webinar. So thank you all for joining us. We understand how busy you all are, and we really do truly appreciate you taking the time to be with us for the next 30 to 40 minutes or so. So my name is Faisal Akhtar, and I'm delighted to be joined by my colleague, Thomas Krauklis. We're part of the customer success team here at NC Squared, and we're thrilled to be your hosts for today's webinar. So before we dive into the exciting content, let's cover some housekeeping details. So the webinar will be one way, meaning only Tom's and I will be on camera and audio, including any recordings. However, we do encourage you to actively participate by asking questions through the chat or questions panel, which some of you I see have already discovered. So additionally, keep an eye out for a couple of quick polls during the session, and when they appear, simply vote by clicking the answer that resonates with you. So let's get on to today's agenda. In just a moment, Tom's and I will take you on a tour of the exciting new features in our latest release. After that, we'll reserve some time to address any questions you may have, so don't hesitate to share them in the chat as they come to mind, and we'll respond to them towards the end. Lastly, we'll wrap up with some essential next steps and key takeaways. But before we jump into the features, let's quickly recap why we've gathered here today. So the latest version of Distribution Engine by NC Squared is called Llama. It was released on the 12th of July, so you may already be using it. The upgrade is seamless and preserves all of your configuration and settings. It's available on the App Exchange already at no additional cost to our customers, so you can choose when to update. But remember, we will start to push this to customers from the week of the 14th of August. So without further ado, let's get started. And Tom's will begin by taking you through some of the newest features in Distribution Engine. So over to you, Toms.
Thank you, Faisal, and hi, everyone. Thank you again for joining. So what have we added for you in our latest release? First off, we're excited to be rolling out custom classification. Custom classification lets you automate and simplify complex distribution rules, streamline workflow, and improve overall efficiency. You now have the power to define and automate record classification rules, leading to more efficient distribution. You can create groups of markers known as stamps, which can be automatically assigned to records based on criteria that you set. Next up, we've expanded the control you have over user permissions. Within Llama, we've introduced a bespoke permission set called Custom Team Manager to grant you increased flexibility in managing permissions within the app. This is a new permission set, which gives you more control over the views and actions your users can take in DE. This new feature lets you customize the extent of access and abilities of your managers based on your unique needs. The permissions editor is a user-friendly and intuitively designed, and right there within the Distribution Engine UI, enabling you to establish which parts of the app users can access, not access, view in read-only mode, and which elements they can edit, create, or delete. We've also enhanced our SLA functionality to now include the option of setting up a custom date and time SLA. And finally, we've made a number of other changes and additions, including enhancements to our import and export feature, the ability to open links in new browser tabs, negative operators, and you now have the ability to request additional DE licenses straight from within the app. So next, let's have a closer look at these, and we'll start off with the custom classification feature.
Organizations can handle a lot of records that fall into different categories. For example, leads can differ in sources, types, and priority, and each type might need a different way of handling. Making sense and keeping track of this handling can be difficult and lead to complex distributor filters and logic. In Llama, we're expanding our classifier features and introducing custom classification. Custom classification lets you define and automate record classification rules, leading to more efficient distribution. You can create groups of markers known as stamps, which can be automatically assigned to records based on criteria that you set. For example, identify your highest priority leads based on a combination of fields and stamp them with a high priority stamp. You can then use this high priority stamp in your distribution logic to simplify your distributor logic and filter team members easier. Let's have a look at how to set this up in DE. First, let's have a look at how to set up stamp groups. Next, we'll have a look at how they work together with tags, and finally, we'll see how to use them in our distribution setup. Custom classification lives under the Distribution Classifier tab here. The first step is to set up a new stamp group. Here, we select which object this applies to. Currently, this feature is available for accounts, cases, contacts, leads, and opportunities. For my example, I'll use lead. Next, we give it a name. I'll call it priority. Then, we select if it is a single or multiple type. Single means that each record can have one stamp at a time from this stamp group. For example, priority. A single record can be priority 1 or priority 2, not priority 1 and priority 2. Multiple is the opposite, when one record can have multiple stamps from the same group. For example, your prospects may be interested in multiple products from your catalog. You also have the option to synchronize this stamp group with a tag collection. Now let's go ahead and create our stamp group. Next, let's add stamps to our stamp group. We can also set up stamps based on distributor filters. Let's add a stamp and call it priority 1. Next, using the filters, we can specify which lead should be stamped with the priority 1 stamp. In my example, I want it to be based on 3 fields: annual revenue, industry, and rating. I want this to apply only if annual revenue is greater than 500,000, industry equals energy, and rating equals hot. You also have the option to create your own custom logic here. Let's go ahead and create the stamp. Let's add another one called priority 2. And we will set this to be the default stamp. This is in the case when the record isn't stamped with priority 1, it will be stamped with priority 2. To recap, we've created a stamp group and called it priority, and created 2 stamps, priority 1 and priority 2. And because we ticked the synchronize with tag collection, we can open the tag collection from here. This tag collection works just like any other DE tag collection. You can simply apply these tags to your team members, who's eligible to receive priority 1 and who should receive priority 2 leads. Next, let's look at how to use this in our distribution logic. Here I have a distributor called P1. This is my distributor dedicated to my priority 1 leads. The way I make sure that this only distributes my priority 1 leads is by using the stamp group we created earlier here in the field-based filters. Here I've selected DE stamp group, and I've selected the priority stamp group we created earlier, and equals priority 1. So what this means is that this distributor is only going to distribute leads that the classifier has stamped with the priority 1 stamp. In the team member filter, I've selected the by tags option classifier, and I've selected stamp group and the stamp group we created earlier called priority, and the operator includes. So this means that the individual must have a tag with the same value as the stamp on the lead, priority 1 in this case. To recap, we created a stamp group called priority with 2 stamps, priority 1 and priority 2. We looked at the tag collection that was automatically created, and we looked at an example on how to use this in distribution logic. So to sum up, custom classification is an easy way to streamline your distribution of different types of records by filtering records and team members. This will save you time by not needing to adjust every distributor every time your business logic changes. Just adjust the classifier. And remember, if you have complex distribution logic, get started quickly by importing your distributor logic to a stamped group.
Great. So what we saw in the example was how to set up the priority 1 distributor. So we could do the same for the priority 2 stamp to create a dedicated distributor for those lower priority leads as well. And I want to add that you can create up to 10 stamp groups in your org. So now I'll hand over to Faisal, who will run you through our new custom team manager permission set.
We already have a range of permission sets within Distribution Engine, from a regular user receiving distributions through to the system manager and DE admin roles, which allow comprehensive control. In between is our team manager permission set. So many of our customers come to us with unique permissioning needs. For instance, some wish to limit team managers to only assign tags, restricting access to distributors or teams they're not managing. Yet others want a more open environment where team managers have full visibility and edit rights across all areas. It's this variety of needs that inspired us to provide them with this flexibility. So as a first stage, we've created a custom team manager permission set. It's similar to the existing team manager permission set, but what sets it apart is that it allows customers to fine-tune exactly what their team managers can see and do within the app. A key point to mention here is that these permissions are managed by you within our UI and not within Salesforce itself, enabling you to keep control with your DE admin rather than a Salesforce admin. So there's no need for additional Salesforce setup. So let's now dive into a demo to illustrate how this works. So I'd like to introduce you all to a new feature called Distribution Engine Custom Team Manager. Think of it as a supercharged version of our existing Team Manager permission set. The real magic here is the ability for admins to fine-tune what specific users can see within the app. So let me show you what this looks like. So here in our custom permissions page, which you'll find under the Distribution Settings tab, you'll see we have a variety of access control options. In some cases, these options allow users to decide whether they can edit, create, or delete team members, or just view them. They can also control whether they can view or edit distributors, and if so, which parts. We also have detailed settings for tags, distribution availability, and logs. So whether they can only view their own logs, the team's logs, or delete logs, or if they have the ability to access the analytics. So as an example, let me scroll to the top and let's set the team members page to view only and remove access to team availability and team performance, and then hit save. So to see what this looks like, I've logged in with the new permission set, and if I go into a team that I'm a manager of, we should see here on the left-hand side, the vertical navigation is more streamlined, so only showing sections they have the capability to see or adjust. So you can see here that this list is normally a lot longer than this, and we only have access to team members and distributors. So within team members, for example, we said we could only view but not create, edit, or delete team members. So here you can see there is no add team member button. I can view and adjust the availability toggle as I gave myself that permission. Now let's go back to the custom permissions page and change the toggle to view only. and click Save. So if I refresh the page, you'll now see all of the team member availability toggles are now grayed out. So in general, if they have access to the page, but not the editing rights, they will still be able to view it. So it boils down to a page level control of view and edit rights, or no access at all. So to sum up, the custom team manager is the first step we're taking towards providing more granularity in permission sets. While it's not the last step, it adds another layer of customization to your permissioning strategy. It strikes a balance between providing access to useful features and restricting unnecessary ones. For example, there's no access to things like the classifier or distribution settings, and standard team scoping applies, meaning managers can only interact with teams that they're added to or have access rights for. The objective here is to provide you with a more tailored, efficient, and secure way to manage permissions in Distribution Engine. We hope this new feature will offer the flexibility you need and enhance your overall user experience.
Thank you, Faisal. A poll should appear on your screen on the right-hand side if it hasn't already. This poll is about which of the new features you're most looking forward to exploring. So please answer that when you can, and we'll recap the results a little bit later. Next, I'm going to recap our SLA features and show you the new enhancements we've added in Llama.
Once your leads are assigned, it is important that they're followed up on time. Taking too long can lead to missed opportunities. Ensuring this manually is difficult and inconsistent. We can automate this with DE SLAs. Distribution SLAs notify you of missed targets. Usually, this is to enforce response metrics such as time to contact. SLAs help your team achieve their targets by making them aware of upcoming and past SLAs. But if they miss a hard deadline, SLAs can automatically reassign the record to someone else. SLAs have been a part of DE for some time now, but in our latest release, we've introduced even more options on how to set them up. We now have 3 options. Time checkpoint SLAs. This is the most commonly used option. Checkpoints are set at fixed times after assignment to check the value of a field. For example, has this lead been followed up within the hour after assignment? Continuous field monitoring SLAs. The SLA criteria will be continually evaluated for a set amount of time. If at any point during that time the criteria is true, the SLA will be considered missed. This method is useful if you already have an established SLA process and want to flag SLA breaches to Distribution Engine in order to auto-reassign records. Custom datetime SLAs, the new option introduced in Llama. The SLA criteria will be checked at a date and time specified by a field on the record. For example, you could have a custom SLA check datetime field which stores the time limit for the SLA action to be completed. This method is useful if you have specific times to check SLAs that change for each record. Let's have a look at how to set this up in DE. You will find SLAs under the Tracking and SLAs menu item when within a team. My first example is of time checkpoint SLAs. In this scenario, I expect my reps to move the record out of the assigned status to contacted in an hour maximum after the lead has been assigned to them. If they don't, they'll be notified that the SLA has been missed. Next, if the lead is still with the status of assigned after 90 minutes, I want to reassign this lead to someone else. Reassignment is configured from the distributor level tab here. The next option is the continuous field monitoring SLA. This method is useful if you have an established SLA setup in your org already. In my example, I have a checkbox on my lead record called SLA check. And here I select for how long should DE continuously check if the SLA has failed. Custom datetime SLAs is the newest option introduced in this release. The SLA criteria will be checked at a date and time specified by a field on the record. This method is useful if you have specific times to check SLAs that change for each record. In my example, I want my leads created each week to be dealt with by the end of the same week. So, I have a formula field that stores the end of the week and the SLA checks that the lead should be moved out of assigned status by the end of the week. If not, the SLA is missed. To summarize, you can use DE SLAs to automatically monitor that reps take timely action on the work that is assigned to them, and the new feature in Llama gives you even more flexibility to match your specific business needs.
Great. So another poll should shortly appear on your screen. It's about other challenges you experience in Salesforce that are not record assignment. If you'd like to take part, please do. So looking at the results of the first poll, good to see there's a pretty even split for both of the major features. So that's great to see. So now I'll hand you back to Faisal, who'll take you through some more of the new features.
Thank you, Toms. Okay, so continuously improving our product is at the heart of all our releases. So in Llama, we tweaked our export and import functionality. We now allow the ability to not bring in team members when exporting to a new org. You can now open links within DE in new browser tabs. We've expanded our API functionality, and you're now able to add negative operators to filters across DE. In addition, we've also made it much easier to request additional DE licenses via the user interface, and you can now launch Assignment Simulator via the distribution logs page. So these improvements have enriched the existing functionality to cater for a wider set of use cases, whilst at the same time, we've improved the user experience, which will save time and increase your productivity. So let me cover these off in turn. So within our import and export wizard, we now allow you to select whether teams will bring across team members or just the team configuration. So this will allow export import between orgs which have frequently changing team members, which would no longer need to be kept in sync. So for example, your sandbox or test org won't necessarily have all of your live users. So this makes building out configurations and importing into your production org a lot easier. And validation will automatically be applied where users are referenced in your configuration. So for example, in team member filters. Okay, another one, seemingly minor issue, but one which with huge impacts on productivity, being able to open links in new browser tabs. So this will increase our users' ability to work on items in parallel and stop using a linear approach to navigating the app. So all links in the application have been updated to now be full HTML browser links, meaning that you can use the right-click menu to open the links in a new browser tab, for example. We've also expanded our API functionality with the ability to assign a shift or the team hours to team members, add and remove out-of-office events, and the Add API will allow for multiple team members to have an out-of-office event created for them at once, which will create multiple events at the same time and date. So if you manage shift patterns or availability in another system, you can use the new API to automatically synchronize those with Distribution Engine. So a number of our customers have asked us to look into expanding negative operators for filters like does not contain and not in. So these have currently been restricted for performance reasons, but we've now incorporated these as we acknowledge they allow more refinement when setting up your filter criteria. And in terms of everything else, so we've now added the ability to request additional licenses within the application. So this will send an email to our operations team with the provided details. We've also renamed Assign by Status. So this has been renamed to Assign by Field Value to better reflect the functionality. And Assignment Simulator can now be launched from our distribution logs page. Okay, so on to our last poll. So please get ready with your voting fingers. So we're going to Dreamforce this year. If you're also planning on attending, please let us know. And we'd be happy to reach out to pre-arrange a time for us to meet and have a chat. So a simple yes or no for this one. Thank you. Okay, so on to the questions, and I can see there's actually been quite a few coming in during the demos. So we've got a few minutes to answer these, and I've got our head of product in the background making sure that I give the right answers. So thank you, Charlie. If we don't get to your questions on the broadcast, we'll still try and answer them afterwards. So let's have a look. So the first question, will custom classification be available for custom objects? Okay, so we're looking into the feasibility and scheduling of this. So please let us know if it's something that's of interest to you, or indeed any other feedback on custom classification. Another question that's come in is, how many filters can we use for a stamp value? And the answer for that is 5. So 5 filters. Next question we've got is, why is it called Llama? So some of you may already be aware, but all of our releases are named after animals in alphabetical order. The next one being Meerkat, which is due for release in Q1 of 2024. I can see here, Emma, thank you for providing that detailed use case. We will follow up separately with you after the webinar on that. So thank you for sharing that. And also, my apologies if I'm mispronouncing your name. Merit says, opening links in new tabs is major. I think we agree. So thank you very much for that feedback. Okay, what else do we have here? So another question, does import export with the users option create the user if such a user does not exist in the destination environment? Give us a moment to answer that one. So here, as this would be a Salesforce user, we wouldn't create it. So the option is to not include users was provided for use cases where users may exist in a sandbox, but not in a production environment. Okay, so last call for any more questions. So while we wait for those. I've got one here come through. Can we leverage territories for case distribution? And the answer for that is yes, definitely. Another one here. How many stamp groups can you have? So that is 10 across all objects. So 10 stamp groups. And another one, can different team members have different custom permissions? This one, no. So everyone on the custom permission set has the same permissions that you set. However, the other permission sets are still available, so including our standard team manager permission set. One here, when you get to X, what animal will you use to name the release? Oh gosh, okay. That'll be an interesting one, I'm sure. Yeah, please keep using DE to find the answer to that one. Okay, so I think that's all we have in terms of questions. And yep, so hopefully you've learned a little bit about the great new features our product and engineering teams have been working on over the past few months. We've seen how custom classification can help with the distribution process by stamping records to streamline your configuration. With the new custom team manager permission set, you can effectively delegate tasks to team managers, allowing you more control. So we added a new SLA option where the SLA criteria can be checked at a date and time specified by a field on the record, so giving you even more flexibility. Finally, we saw a few more updates to the functionality, so enhancements to our import and export, give you the option to not bring over team members, opening DE links in new tabs, additions to our APIs, the ability to use negative operators, and in addition, you can now request new DE licenses via the UI and also invoke Assignment Simulator from our distribution logs page. So there are tons of other small improvements, so please check out the release notes for full details of these. And speaking of which, there are three main next steps that I'd like to point you towards. So first of all, whether you've already installed or have that scheduled in the next few weeks, I'd encourage you to check out the release notes on our knowledge base. So simply go to help.nc-squared.com/llama. So that details all of the features that you've seen today, as well as a full guide to the update procedure. Next up, if you're ready to upgrade, you simply need to go to the Distribution Engine App Exchange listing and hit the Get It Now button. It's that simple. Finally, as a reminder, we will start pushing the new release to customers who haven't yet upgraded in the week commencing August 14th. If you'd prefer us to push to your org earlier, or you have any other upgrade questions, please email us on support@nc-squared.com. And all that remains for me is to say a big thank you to you all for your time today and for being our customers. From Tom's and I, we hope you have a great rest of your day and enjoy the new features in Distribution Engine.
Thanks, everyone.